UFC 281, Adesanya versus Pereira, full card prediction breakdown. We're going to look at the betting odds as well. If you're new to the channel, we do predictions like this every single week, where we break down every prelim fight, every main card fight, and I give you my prediction, why I think they're going to win, how I think they're going to win, and if I think they're going to win easily, I'll tell you that. If I think it's going to be a super close fight, I'll tell you that as well. There's not going to be too much of a betting breakdown on this video. We'll do that a little bit later on in the week. But we're going to go through every single one of these 14 amazing fights at UFC 281. And if you're new to the channel, go down and smash that like button. It helps with the algorithm. Subscribe and turn on those notifications. And if you are just waiting around for the predictions to start, put your predictions down below in the comments. I love to see who you got and if you match up to what I have as well. So go down below right now and put your predictions for this card. With that being said, let's get into my predictions as we go on to the light heavyweight division. Carlos Ulberg and Nicolae Negumereanu in the light heavyweight division, 28 and 31, almost 32 years old. A lot taller is Carlos Ulberg, but lengthier is Nicolae Negumereanu, who's on a 4-fight win streak, 2 of them by split decision, 2 of them by KO TKO, only losing in his UFC debut. Since then, he's done very, very well. Same thing can be said for Carlos, only losing in the UFC debut, and then looking very good, outstriking Fabio, staying on the outside, and then knocking out Tafon and Chukwi. Obviously, Carlos is going to be the better striker, taller, lengthier, training with guys like Israel Adesanya as a main training partner. But Nicolae's got a chin, man. The dude can eat a lot of punishment, come forward, put on that pressure, and eat your shots. Eat the best thing you got, and then mix in those takedowns. I believe Ulberg will win round number 1, standing on the outside, but that pressure non-stop coming forward nature of Nicolae Negumereanu and the wrestling in round 2 and round 3, I believe Negumereanu will use that to win round 2, win round 3, and win a unanimous decision against Carlos Ulberg. My first underdog of the night is, well, the first dog and first fight of the night at plus 100, Nicolae by decision. Julio Arce and Montel Jackson in the bantamweight division. Montel, 30 years old, younger than Julio Arce, taller than Julio Arce, lengthier than Julio Arce, beating JP Bays, Jesse Strader, Felipe Colares, and Andre Sukmamtath, only losing a grappler, jiu-jitsu type of guy in Brett Johns. Julio Arce going very up and down, win one, lose one, win one, lose one, over and over and over again. But I do believe Montel Jackson's going to get this one done. He's taller, he is lengthier, which is going to force Julio Arce to have to close that distance to land the powerful shots that we know Julio Arce can land. But that's the thing. To be able for Julio to close that distance, Montel is going to be landing the jab, landing the kicks at range and things like that, using the height and the reach. Plus the fact that Montel Jackson has the better wrestling, has the better grappling and ground game than Julio Arce. If Julio gets too close and is about to land a good shot on Montel, Montel's going to be shooting those takedowns. And that is why I think Montel Jackson will win a 29-28 decision. If it was a 3-round striking fight, 29-28 split decision either way. But with the wrestling of Montel, I think that'll be the deciding factor. Montel Jackson by unanimous decision. Seung Choi and Mike Trizano in the featherweight division. 0-2 in his last 2, losing to Alex Caceres and Joshua Coulibaly while beating Julian Erosa, Youssef Zalal, and Souman Mokhtarian. Both are 30 years old, pretty similar height, but a little bit of a reach advantage for Seung Choi. Loser here could honestly be cut from the UFC, given that Mike Trizano would be at that point about 1-3, 1-4 in his last 5 fights, and Seung Choi would be 0-3 on a 3-fight losing streak. I think this is a close one here. Seung hits harder, he's lengthier, and the wrestling and grappling should be non-factor. So if it's a 3-round striking fight, the volume is even, but the power goes Seung Choi, and the chin advantage goes Seung Choi. Should be a pretty obvious one in my opinion. Obviously, Mike could surprise us and land something big on Seung Choi. Decide he's a wrestler, so you're a wrestler now, says Nate Diaz. And Trizano could go out there and do that, but I assume it'd be a 3-round striking striking fight, and Seung Choi is slightly the better striker, a little bit more power, which is why I give Seung Choi the 29-28 decision. Silvana Gomez Juarez and Karolina Kowalkiewicz in the strawweight division. I'm going finish here. I'm going to go finish. Silvana, when was the last time you've seen this girl go to a decision? Got 2 knockout wins before joining the UFC. Lost to Lupita Godinez by armbar in round number 1. Lost to Vanessa Demopoulos by armbar round number 1 after almost knocking her out. And then she ended up knocking out Na Liang in her next fight. They're both 37 years old, similar height, similar reaches. It's a weird fight. It's kind of like Marlon Vera taking on Rob Font, where Karolina throws a little bit more volume, slightly better wrestler, slightly better grappler, but I think it's going to be a 3-round striking fight if it does go to a decision. Should be mainly a striking fight, but again, like I said, Marlon Vera versus Rob Font, whereas Karolina throws more volume, but Silvana has that power. And she can easily turn this fight from she's getting out volume by Karolina to knocking her out or landing something big on the feet. So it's a tough one in my opinion. I understand why it's a 50-50. Having Silvana as the underdog, it makes sense because she could easily get out volumed in this fight, but I'm leaning more that under 2.5 rounds. I do believe Silvana Gomez Juarez will go out there, close that distance, and land something big on Karolina Kowalkiewicz and knock her out round 1 or round number 2. If not, Karolina's probably going to finish her in those later rounds as well with a submission, but I'm going to go Silvana Gomez Juarez, that under 2.5. Looking good, looking good. Silvana by TKO. Ottman Azaitar and Matt Frevola in the lightweight division, 32 years old. The betting odds pretty even right here. Ottman, a slight underdog on some bookies, a slight favorite on other bookies right there. So I guess whatever I say right here, I can kind of twist it, saying that I picked an underdog, even though, I mean, they've both been underdogs at some points or another. Ottman was a plus 130 underdog for a while. Matt Frevola is an underdog on some of them, was plus 105 right when the betting odds have come out. So you can see exactly why this is a very, very close fight. Frevola going out there, getting rocked against Gennaro, knocking down Gennaro 4 times in that fight, getting knocked down himself in that fight, but before that, getting knocked out bad by Terrence McKinney and getting out-wrestled and out-grappled by Arman Tsarukyan, beating Jalen Turner and Luis Pena, whereas Ottman Azaitar has beaten Kama Worthy and Timu Pakalen, none of which are inside of the UFC. And I don't know what that 2-year layoff has been like for Ottman Azaitar. I don't know what he's been doing on that 2-year layoff, so it should be an interesting one here in the lightweight division. That's pretty much it. If the layoff was horrible, he wasn't training too much, then Matt Frevola is probably going to use that steamroller nickname to out-wrestle and out-grapple Ottman Azaitar for the decision, land some good shots on the feet as well. But if Ottman was really training and looking and working on his wrestling and his takedown defense, and just improving his striking, improving his cardio throughout that 2-year break from the UFC, well, Ottman should easily win this fight. And it's an interesting one. It just comes down kind of to the weigh-ins. I might make a separate video or go live and talk about it once the weigh-ins do come out on Friday, talking about what I think is going to be looking like for Ottman Azaitar and Matt Frevola, because what Ottman looks like on the scale is going to be a huge, huge factor for a guy that has not fought in 2 years. So I might change my prediction here, but for right now, I'm going to go Ottman Azaitar. I think he's going to look good on the scales. I think he's been training the wrestling and grappling. I think he's going to catch Matt Frevola on the feet and KO TKO him in round number 2. But should be a banger in the lightweight division. Should be steamroller, bulldozer. I mean, these are just colossal come forward type of nicknames right here. I think this is going to be one for the ages, an absolute banger in the lightweight division. The under 2.5 rounds is minus money. I don't think this goes to a decision, but what do y'all think? I got Ottman Azaitar by KO in round number 2. Andre Petroski and Wellington Turman in the middleweight division. Wellington coming off 2 great wins. Not a great win, but Sam Alvey right there. And then he beat Misha Serganov, beating Marcus Perez, while getting knocked out by non-UFC fighter Andrew Sanchez and Bruno Silva. He's 26 years old, pretty tall, pretty lengthy right there. Similar height, similar reaches. Experience heavily favoring Wellington Turman. But Andre is older, he's the better wrestler, and he is the better better striker in my opinion. Jiu-jitsu wise, Wellington is pretty solid as well, but I do believe Andre Petroski should be able to go out there and take the fight down on Wellington Turman and stay out of the armbar submissions that Misha Sirgunov was unable to stay away from. Should be a grappling and wrestling scrambling delight in the middleweight division. Two high-level wrestlers and grapplers. I think Andre Petroski is slightly better. And if it is one of those Usman versus Covington situations where it's a 3-round striking fight, well, I don't care. Andre's still a better striker in my opinion. I got Andre Petroski by I'm gonna go decision. I'm gonna go decision because he's got knocked out by Sanchez and the Bruno Silva fight, but I don't think Petroski is gonna go out there and submit him. I mean, he got the TKO Michael Gilmore, but usually he's going out there looking for that submission. So I think the fight goes all the way. I'll go Petroski by decision. Erin Blanchfield and Molly McCann in the flyweight division. I'm gonna be going with, I'll tell you in a bit. Erin is 9-1 as an MMA fighter, beating JJ Aldrich by submission, Miranda Maverick by unanimous decision, Sarah Alpar in a freaking domination, and Brogan Walker. She's very young in her MMA career, only losing to Tracy Cortez. Molly Meatball losing to Lara Fritzen right there a year and a half ago. I don't know where that one came up of. I legit do not remember her fighting. Oh, with Lara Fritzen, not. I always remember her name being Lara Procopio. My bad about that one. She did lose a very close fight to Lara Procopio, and she lost a unanimous decision to title challenger Tyler Santos. But she's a dog. She was on a 3-fight win streak before that, beating Ariane Lipski, Priscilla Cachoeira, and Diana Belbita. She's on another one and 2 knockouts in a row on Luana Karolina and Hannah Goldia. But if you remember how she's losing a lot of these fights, Jillian Robertson, Tyler Santos, and Lara Fritzen, what are they all doing to go out there and beat Molly McCann? Well, they're taking her down, they're out wrestling her, they're ground and pounding her, they're wearing her down with the wrestling and grappling and things like that. And I'm going to be honest, that's exactly what a girl like Erin Blanchfield is going to do. That's what she did to Sarah Alpar. That's what she did to Miranda Maverick. She got the submission on JJ Aldrich right there and arguably won against Tracy Cortez as well. So it should be an interesting one in my opinion. I do lean Erin Blanchfield, but I mean the striking did not look good for JJ Aldrich, for Erin Blanchfield against JJ Aldrich in the last fight. So it should be interesting to see that because Molly is definitely the better fighter in terms of the striking, not overall as a better fighter, but in terms of the striking. So if Molly's able to defend the takedown, this could be a good underdog bet, but I do lean Erin to be able to land those takedowns in control for the 30-27 unanimous decision. Dominick Reyes and Ryan Spann in the light heavyweight division. Dominick Reyes 0-3 against champion, one of the greatest of all time, Jan Blachowicz, Jiri Prochazka, the current freaking champion. I mean, he's losing a beast right here. Ryan Spann, if he were to fight the guys that Dominick Reyes is fighting right there, he'd get smoked. He would get absolutely smoked by that, guys. I mean, who is he beating? Sam Alvey? By split decision, Misha Sirgunov and Iwan Kutala. But Dominick Reyes would easily beat Misha, easily beat Sam, and easily beat Iwan Kutala. But he'd probably beat Anthony Smith and Johnny Walker as well. So it's an interesting one. They're similar in age, a little bit of a height and reach advantage for Ryan Spann. Ryan hits harder. Dominick Reyes, a little chinny in my opinion. I mean, he's been knocked out by high-level strikers and things like that in his last 2 fights. So I don't know if Ryan will be able to get the knockout, but very good shot he does in round number 1, given the fact that Reyes has been knocked out so recently and a lot in his MMA career. But I think the fight does stay on the feet. I think the wrestling and grappling will kind of cancel out a little bit here. Ryan gonna win round number 1 with the power and with the amount of shots that he's gonna be landing. Round 2, I believe Dominick Reyes is gonna be winning that round, pouring on the pressure on Ryan Spann, landing a lot of volume. He's gonna rock Ryan Spann at the end of round number 2, and in round number 3, he's just gonna pour on the pressure on Ryan Spann. Get his back into the cage, land some good knees, good elbows, and boom, 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 right hook, left hook, right hook, left hook, and I think we see a finish. Dominick Reyes loses round 1 due to Ryan Spann landing some big shots. Reyes wins round 2, comes down to round number 3, but I think Reyes gets the finish in round number 3. Renato Moicano and Brad Riddell in the lightweight division. If you look at the betting odds for this fight, Renato is at minus 123 on the betting odds. Brad Riddell, a solid plus 105. Dog, Tapology, pretty split down the middle, pretty much the exact same thing as the betting odds are for this fight right here. A lot of people saying Moicano by submission because that's how he wins. Rear naked, rear naked, rear naked, and they're looking at Brad Riddell coming off a guillotine loss on Jalen Turner. He must not have good takedown or wrestling. He's got good wrestling. He out-wrestled Drew Dober in their fight, out-wrestled, other guys in his MMA career. He's got good wrestling and good grappling to be able to defend the takedowns of Renato Moicano. So I don't know why so many people are saying submission. I think if there's going to be a finish, it would be Brad Riddell getting the finish on Renato Moicano, knocking him out on the feet like Rafael Fazia was able to do. But I think it's going to go to a decision. I think Renato will be looking for those takedowns early on, possibly wins round number 1 due to those takedowns. But round 2, round 3, once they're sweaty, once Riddell's able to use his kickboxing and striking to stay at range, that's where I think Brad Riddell's going to outstrike Renato Moicano, win round 2, win round 3. And we got another underdog in Brad Riddell winning a 29-28 decision. Dan Hooker and Claudio Puelles in the lightweight division, the number 14 contender in the lightweight division at minus 152. On the betting odds right there, I was originally going Claudio Puelles as my early prediction. I thought possibly maybe Dan Hooker is a little bit chinned out right here. Took a lot of damage in the Dustin Poirier fight, got knocked out badly by Michael Chandler, submitted by Islam, then got knocked out again by Arnold Allen, did beat Nasrat Haqparast, but uses wrestling in that fight, and I was thinking maybe Claudio's able to catch him on the feet with something, take the fight down, and control it on the ground. But the more and more that I think about this fight, I start to lean more towards Dan Hooker. I do think if you're going to bet the fight, do not bet Dan Hooker. The odds are not worth it whatsoever. But prediction-wise, I've switched. I'm going to go Dan Hooker now. I do believe he should be able to defend the takedowns of Claudio Puelles. If he's dominating Nasrat Haqparast on the ground, like he was able to do in that fight, I know Islam dominated him on the ground, but Claudio's no Islam Makhachev in my opinion. I think Dan Hooker will be able to defend the takedowns in the later rounds. Maybe Claudio lands it in round 1, but Dan Hooker should be able to defend in those later rounds and show that volume and the kickboxing and the city kickboxing skills in round 2, round 3, possibly get close to a finish, maybe a 10-8 rounds in round 3, possibly in that round, but it should be a good one. Claudio's very live for a finish, could get a submission here on Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker is very live for a knockout in round number 3. But I think round 2 is definitely probably going to be Dan Hooker's round. Round 3 probably going to be Dan Hooker. And then round number 1 going to be Claudio Puelles. Kind of comes down to that round number 2 and who wins that round. But at that point, they're going to be sweaty and Dan Hooker is going to land some big shots. So not a super confident pick as you guys will see later. But I got Dan Hooker by a unanimous decision. Underdog time, Frankie Edgar, Chris Gutierrez in the bantamweight division, 41 and 43 years old. Do I care about the age of Frankie Edgar? A little bit. Lost to unanimous decision to Max Holloway, lost to Chan Sung Jung, beat Pedro Munoz, then he got knocked out bad by Corey Sandhagen and Marlon Chito Vera. But if you remember anything about that Marlon Chito Vera fight, he was winning. He was out wrestling, out controlling Marlon Vera in that fight. He was about to walk home a 29-28 decision win on a top 5 bantamweight. It was about to fight for the UFC belt in 1 or 2 more fights. Now he's going way down outside of the top 15 to fight Chris Gutierrez, who went out there. He beat Felipe Colares by a split decision right there. Split decision. It got a draw against Cody Durden because Cody was landing too many takedowns on Chris Gutierrez. I think that draw that he had against Cody Durden right there, and the fact that Edgar was able to out-wrestle Marlon Vera in round 1 and in round number 2. I think Chris will make it interesting and win round number 3. Frankie Edgar wins round number 1. Round 2 is going to be a super close round, but I think Frankie Edgar edges out round number 2 and wins a 29-28 29-28 split decision. Striking advantage, obviously going Chris. He's taller, he's not as lengthy, but he is taller, better kicking game, a little bit more power. Edgar has been knocked out a lot of times in the past, so maybe Gutierrez could clip him on the way in and knock him out, but I see the fight going all the way. Round 1, round 2, Edgar. Gutierrez will try to come back, and he'll do very good in round 3, and Edgar gets a farewell send-off at his UFC retirement, beating Chris Gutierrez by a split decision. Dustin the Diamond Poirier versus Michael Chandler in the lightweight division. Chandler beating Tony Ferguson, losing at Gaethje, and Charles Oliveira beating Dan Hooker and Benson Henderson. Poirier beating Hooker, Conor McGregor, Tice, and only losing to champions Habib and Charles Oliveira. Poirier is taller, he is lengthier, he's the better striker, he's got more cardio, he's got more volume. Chandler's got more power, he's got the better wrestling. So what are you going to go? Volume, cardio, round 2, round 3 striking for Poirier? Or are you going to go the wrestling and the explosiveness and the power of Michael Chandler? I'm going to go Dustin Poirier on this one. I think Chandler's got this shot to go out there and maybe finish Poirier early on in round number 1. He's always got that possibility. Almost knocked out Charles do Bronx Oliveira. He knocked out Dan Hooker. Could very well do the same here, but his main path to victory is taking Poirier down. And he might be able to do that round number 1, but I don't think he'll be able to round 2 or in round number 3. That's why I think Poirier uses his speed and uses his volume to win round 2 and win round 3 in an all-out freaking war in the UFC's lightweight division. If we're looking at the betting odds, Poirier's at minus 220 now. The odds just dropped. I mean, he started at minus 200, went up to like minus 150 at one point, and then he went down to minus 220 earlier on today. Odds to go to a decision are plus 200, which is insane. I think the fight goes to a decision, and I'm leaning plus 300 Dustin Poirier by a unanimous decision. Carla Esparza and Weili Zhang in the strawweight division. I'm going to go Weili Zhang to win. These odds are completely off. They are actually switched. Weili Zhang is a 4-1 favorite. She is taller. She is more powerful. She's the better striker than Carla Esparza. She hits harder than Carla Esparza, and her wrestling and her grappling has been getting so much better. Not to mention, she's the stronger fighter than Carla Esparza. This is a pretty confident pick for me. I think Weili Zhang keeps this one on the feet, defends the takedowns of Carla Esparza, and lights up Carla Esparza in round 1, and in round number 2, wins those 2 rounds, and in round number 3, she's really going to wear on Carla Esparza, and it's going to be just like the Carla Esparza taking on the woman, the myth, the legend, Joanna Jędrzejczyk for the inaugural belts. Sorry, that wasn't for the inaugural belt. For the second title fight that Esparza was trying to defend their belt against, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, that's what it's going to be like. Weili is going to get a standing TKO in round number 3, outstriking Carla round 1, round 2 defending those takedowns, and standing TKO in her in round number 3. Alex Poatan Pereira and Israel Adesanya in the middleweight division. Age advantage goes Adesanya. Height and reach is going to be even. Experience advantage in MMA goes Israel Adesanya, but kickboxing, that'll go Alex Pereira. Alex hits harder than Israel Adesanya, and Israel Adesanya is better at countering, standing on the outside, using the leg kicks and the front kicks and the teeps, and things like that, and out-voluming his opponents right there. But Pereira is very good at timing his shots. I mean, even as Adesanya is picking him apart on the outside, landing the leg kicks, the 1-2s, landing the volume on Alex Pereira, Alex is going to be timing something big to knock out Israel Adesanya with, which makes Pereira a super dangerous opponent to potentially knock out Adesanya in this matchup in the middleweight division. Personally, I do think the fight goes to a decision either way. Pereira wins or Adesanya wins. I think it'll be a decision. If Adesanya wins, it'll just be a 48-47, stand on the outside, running from Alex Pereira for 5 straight rounds, landing kicks on the outside, jabs, 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 and winning a close decision. If Pereira wins, I think he'll be pressuring forward, slowly finding that timing, finding that range to clip Israel Adesanya from time to time, and using those big shots to overcrowd and overstimulate the judges to see, oh my god, Adesanya just landed 20 strikes, Pereira landed 3. but Pereira landed a huge, damaging left hook in one of those 3 strikes. We're going to give Alex Pereira the rounds. It's a very close one. It could go either way on the scorecards. I think 48-47, split decision in the middleweight division. Super controversial. Some people say robbery, but I'm going to go Alex Pereira to go out there and get out-volumed, and it's going to be a Marlon Chito Vera Dominick Cruz situation where Adesanya is going to be destroying Alex Pereira at range. Everyone's going to be like, wow, Adesanya is destroying Pereira, and then boom! Pereira rocks Israel Adesanya with something big. Look at Marlon Vera versus Ron Font. That's exactly how I see this one going. See the fight go into a decision. Pereira laying the harder shots. That'll use those to win the fight on the judges' scorecards. Alex Pereira by a split decision. Those are the full card predictions for UFC 281. Adesanya versus Pereira. I got Alex Pereira winning as an underdog right there. What's he at right now? Plus 157. I got Weili Zhang as a 4-1 favorite. Dustin Poirier as a 2-1 favorite, Frankie Edgar as a 2-1 underdog, Dan Hooker as a 1.5-1 favorite, Brad Riddell as an underdog, Dominick Reyes as almost a 2-1 favorite, Blanchfield as a 4-1 favorite, Petroski as a 2-1 favorite, Ottman as an underdog on some, as a favorite on others, Silvana as a slight underdog, Seung Choi as a slight favorite, Montel Jackson as a 2-1 favorite, and Nicolae Negumereanu as a slight underdog. So we got 1 underdog, we got 2 underdogs, we got 3 underdogs, we got 4 underdogs, we got 5 underdogs, we got 6 underdogs. God dang, there's a lot of underdogs in this card. UFC 281, the card of the dogs. Make sure to like and subscribe, put your predictions down below, and we'll see you in the next one.